I get it.
Mbijan raganya.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la.
Ha, code nyingi.
Okay. What's that? Nsila ID soto.
That's sorry. I get it.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariya.
Mbale.
Mo ki janna nun kuno bara tariya.
Jannom yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbali ya bere. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong blabe ko.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jam.
Ha?
Gambia kono ani Gambia bantala bankol. Nko kodo kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta même na kodi topoto nin kodi maraw. Jannom number 1 di nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi mani domorol dir fana beteata. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Wo moyo diat ha.
Apelenta
baraka ni lafta nyelen kendol e bina.
Yalo bukani la ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Abaraka.
Him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But don't you know about Baluwo?
Baluwo? What is Baluwo?
Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluwo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
For the first time in the history of the Gambia, Gambia Printing Publishing Corporation proudly introduces the Biliomatic exercise book printing machine. The machine has the capacity to print more than 20,000 books per hour. Yes, 20,000 books per hour. It also prints magazines, newspapers, calendars, flyers, normal books and all kinds of printed documents plus items at affordable prices. With the Biliomatic printing machine, GPPC can now render high quality and non-size restricted printing service supply across the sub-region. Rush now and partner with GPPC for all your public and private printing service needs. Print with us today and you'd be offered highly professional, reliable and efficient service delivery by our team of experts. The Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation is here to meet all demands and is reliable at all times. For more info, contact us on 437-4493 or 437-4402. GPPC is Gambian and it's yours.
Hello and welcome to the brunch on Kerfatu Live. I am Lamin Cham and this is our weekly look at current affairs both in the home and international front. This week we have the honor of having in the studio the Honorable Mai Ahmed Fati, the leader of the Gambia Moral Congress, and he will take us through to how has he been, with his party in terms of domestic politics, and we will discuss much of the time will be spent on his perspectives on events that's happening around our region, our neighborhood, and in the far world. And then we also move to do sports because the Gambia is facing two crucial matches in the World Cup qualifiers, both of them to be played in Tanzania because Burundi, who we are going to play away, don't have a stadium such as just as the Gambia, and they choose to play in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, that is the capital of Tanzania. The Gambia also choose to play home to the Ivory Coast in the same stadium, the same city, Dar es Salaam. But how have preparations gone? Well, we had the technical side, of course. The coach have picked his 23-man squad. But financial and logistics arrangements, we are told, needs attention urgently. We will discuss with the Gambia football officials in the later part of the program. But like I have said, Honorable Mai Ahmad Fati, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. I know our viewers definitely missed you. So we're glad that today we are able to bring you despite your schedule and whatever engagements you must have.
I'm very glad to be here today.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, if we are going to do justice to our viewers, we will have to ask President Barrow's famous question that he posed to Dr. Cisse the last time. Where have you been? Where were you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to extend compliments to our viewers across the world and to express my appreciation to you for the invitation for being here. It is important that we have this kind of inter-exchange between public figures and the community. I have been quite active since the advent of the last presidential elections. As you know, politics is not just one day, but politics does not also bring bread and butter. So I have been very busy with professional activities and quite a bit of international travels as well. We are now working very hard in the preparatory stages towards hosting our 5th National Congress, which will be held in Farafenni on the 28th of December. So the party is currently very busy with national mobilization to ensure that all regions are effectively represented and that we can once again demonstrate our commitment to the consolidation of internal democracy so that party members will have a say in how the party will be run for the next 2 years. So that is going on, and there's a lot of grassroots mobilization, and it has been so far quite impressive. So that is what is so far on the political front, and I have been very busy with professional activities. It is important that you are able to put food on the table, and also dispense with family and extended family and social commitments. So I have been very busy along that front.
Good.
Thank you.
So let's take a little bit of the current affairs in the Gambia. You must have followed some legislative, because of you being a lawyer, of course, and politician, you must have followed some legislations recently that have both political and perhaps legal ramifications. For example, of course, there was the Victims Reparation Bill. You were Interior Minister. You presided over the initial stages of the transitional justice on this government, since Jammeh left. Now there's a reparation bill that has just been passed, and then there was also the controversial former president's bill. You must have a say or two about this. Let's go to the reparations bill. Do you think this is now a fulfillment of what the TRRC has unearthed and what the Gambians aspire to?
I think it is momentous in the sense that the victims have been waiting for quite too long. 22 years of dictatorship and pretty much 8 years of reign. And so it's a very long time for victims to have closure. So a bill of this nature is pretty much the culmination of a commitment that was made as part of the coalition agenda in 2016 election. We came on the bandwagon of reform, and transitional justice is a very indispensable aspect of that program. And so when we have the TRRC, which is one of a kind in this country, make some very illustrious recommendations, the reparations bill certainly is a fulfillment and a right step in the proper direction. It is very important, but however, there are concerns that we get the bill, but also we must walk through the stages, and that is fundamental. And I agree with those who believe that we should also look into the details. For example, you're talking about reparations, but also we people would like to know what happened to the assets.
Oh, okay.
The assets of the former president.
Yeah.
We need some transparency in that area as well.
Yeah.
But the fact that we have a reparations bill now, which should be signed into law, it's a huge step. And I would commend Parliament and government for having done that. I think we need to move on into implementation. And the implementation stage is what is going to make the difference for a lot of people. Unfortunately, so many people are not around to witness that. But families are here, and you cannot attach any value to human life.
No, absolutely.
But it is some form of consolation and a recognition that at least justice has been served. And in that sense, I think the nation has moved together as one, and the government has finally responded to the demands of the victims.
Well, you, in passing, you mentioned, of course, the assets of the former president. You raised a question as to what happened to them. Okay, I can update it. The last time we had was that $300 million has been raised from sales of the assets until I think some legislation or something stopped the government appeal, and the government now has the right to continue if we got the right to continue the disposal, though we haven't heard of any latest disposal or sale of any of his equipment. But you must also heard about the argument. One of his supporters, who is a National Assembly member, said that he didn't think that monies derived from sales of his assets should be used for reparation. You were very uncompromising when it comes to human rights abuse that happen here on the Gambia. Certainly, you will not agree with that.
I quite agree that.
No, let's go ahead. We are on air.
Monies raised from the proceeds of the former president's assets. In reality, I would believe that those assets, I don't want to go into technical details,
yes, right.
But I do not believe that, in fact, those assets belong to Gambia.
Oh, in the first place.
They are stolen assets. They are ill-gotten assets. And if they rightfully belong to the state. So the proceeds part of it should be used towards compensation. I believe that is what we should do, and not completely rely on the goodwill of the international community. Whatever monies were raised out of the sale of the ill-gotten proceeds of Jammeh belong to the Gambian people. And I think the victims deserve it more than anyone else.
That point is clear. Now, let us move to the controversial former president's bill. I mean, as a legal person now, let's put politics aside. When you had an opportunity to go through it, what were your takings? I mean, of course, there was a lot of controversy. The opposition had to walk out. They said it was a bill. It's a bill definitely that they can't understand all the goodies that it has prepared for ex-presidents. They said it's unnecessary because it's almost equal to the serving president. They cannot have presidents, 2 or 3 presidents, or a former and sitting president taking same kind of money or same benefits.
Well, I think this is an unnecessary controversy.
Why do you think
it is an unnecessary controversy? I think it's much ado about nothing. Really, I think people
Why do you say so?
They're raising a lot of dust. I do not think that this should be such a matter that should allow so much sentiment, evoke so much sentiment, and all that I'm seeing. I think when it comes to national matters, we should be very objective. When it deals with the interests of the country, we should all think of our national instinct rather than our partisan inclinations. I believe that the government has not done a good job at sensitizing and educating people about this. But the Gambia is not unique in this. In fact, most African countries and many other countries in many other parts of the world have this sort of thing. It is not new.
Yeah, but isn't it too much?
In fact,
given the country's economic situation.
I think this has become a tradition. For many countries, particularly emerging economies, and underdeveloped countries like Gambia as well. It is, if you look at our region, you go to Sierra Leone, you find it, you go to Ghana, you go to Nigeria, all these countries, many of them have it.
Yeah, but up to this scale.
Exactly.
A pension even for spouses, in case the former president dies, the vehicles that will be changed every 5 years, 80% of the salary of the sitting president. Chauffeurs, cooks, residents.
I think we have to look at the context. And again, I know a lot of people disagree with me on this, but I believe, I have a very strong conviction on this. We have to look at the context. I mean, the presidency is a very dignified office. It's the highest office of the land. And so, if we want to give an incentive to heads of state to leave, and we also want to fight against corruption, I think it is necessary that we are able to guarantee life after the presidency for them. Because you look at the salary of a president, barely $300,000.
No, now it is five. It's been confirmed. It's 500,000.
Well, this is for the new bill.
The finance minister confirmed it that it's 500,000
with all the allowances combined.
Yes,
you call it $500,000 a month.
Yeah, that's half a million.
I am half a million. Yes.
Yeah.
I am just.
That's $6 million a year.
I am just a simple party leader, and if I tell you the number of letters I receive every month, all over the country, from civil organizations, from football clubs, from towns and villages across the country, asking for donation, mosques and churches, and just me, a party leader who is not on the service of, who is not paid by any Gambian, who is depending on his own labor. I receive a lot of these requests all over the country, and no matter what, you have to try to do your best to satisfy some of them. So the president received 10 times, 100 times more than that. And where do you expect this money to come from? Because our society demands this of you. They demand that the politician must do something for him or her. What have you done for me before asking for my votes? We need to be very frank and honest and be very realistic and take our own social circumstances into cognitions. Society expects a lot from political leaders, including a lot of economic and financial benefits directly from us.
Even if they leave office.
Let me tell you this. So, if assuming the president's salary is 500,000,
you know, that's true. That's finance
yes,
minister.
the president would receive several requests that will totally sink that amount of money. I'm being objective here. I'm not speaking for President Barrow or for anybody else, because this is for ex-presidents. Barrow is not going to be the only ex-president.
Could be anybody.
Barrow could go. It could be a President Fati. It could be President Dabo. It could be a President anybody else.
President Cham.
President Cham, most certainly.
Okay.
So this is, those who believe that this law is specifically made for Barrow got it wrong. I mean, let us be honest when it comes to national matters.
What do you
so what I'm saying is that the president's salary is not enough for him to save for post-presidency. It's not enough for him to continue a certain lifestyle and for him to continue to propagate, become an elder statesman. It is not enough. The savings is not enough. So something has to be done in order to make it easier for a head of state to live a dignified life post-presidency. I mean, the country owes it to our former presidents to do that. Only we have to have maybe certain conditions. It should not be a blank check.
I'm coming to that.
It should not be a blank check.
The other concern people have, that this bill does not contain any exceptions. It just simply said any former president. And you must have had a controversy that arose when the finance, how to call it, the justice minister was asked a direct question. What about those who abuse their office, such as former President Jammeh, as it has been alleged? And you heard his response.
Yes, I support the idea of enacting a law that will cater for former presidents.
That's not... Yeah,
I support the idea, yes.
Okay.
It is the idea in principle that I am propagating here.
Yes.
But I do believe that it is not every former head of state who should be entitled to this.
That is not stated in this bill.
Yeah, I know. So therefore, the bill is not satisfactory.
It's not satisfactory.
Yes, the bill needs to go back to Parliament. It needs to, the ministry needs to redraft the bill again. Now that it is billed and if it is passed by the, signed by the president, if it is signed by, it becomes law.
It's not yet.
But there is an opportunity for there to be prior civil society consultation.
In fact,
there has to be civil society consultation.
Said they were not consulted on that.
Well, that was wrong.
That's what they said.
The process of enacting this bill should attract a lot of national debate, so that parliamentarians would have a chance to put in their 10 cents, civil society organizations.
That did not happen.
The polity itself.
That did not happen.
That was wrong. Yeah. It was a wrong step, but the principle of catering for former heads of state is an idea I strongly support. But this bill is highly unsatisfactory because it gives a blank check.
Exactly.
And even President Jammeh is entitled under the law. The current year under the law. So whatever the minister may say, with all due respect, is fanciful thinking. It's fanciful thinking. There is nothing that prevents Jammeh from benefiting from this bill.
The minister tried to, try to make us believe that because Jammeh is wanted, he has to fight with the law. It's only after he resolved the legal matters that he could be considered. When the others are arguing that, well, nothing like that is even stated here.
With all due respect to the minister, that is not the correct position of the law with regards to this bill. Under this bill, it talks about former presidents and their entitlement. There is no disqualification provision. There is no provision that conditions or attaches to any other circumstance. So if Jammeh were to come to Gambia today, and this law is assented by the president, he could invoke its provisions, and there is nothing in the world that would stop him from benefiting from it. And even I would go to court to enforce that right, because then he would be entitled to the law. And every citizen is entitled to equal protection of the law. If the law confers on him a certain status and advantage, it would be improper and immoral indeed to deny him that. I mean, let us be objectively speaking.
So whereas you, in principle, you agree to whatever package been prepared for former presidents, but then you think that this one is unsatisfactory. Could have gone to explain.
Yes, I think the bill is very brief. It should go into circumstances under which a former head of state would be entitled. A former head of state could be found guilty of malpractice, of corruption, of all these things. He would have done a great disservice to the country during the tenure of his or her tenure. And I think it would be preposterous to suggest that such a head of state should be entitled to these largesse. So there should be such conditions that would qualify a former head of state to do so. Like, for example, a provision exists in Zambia, but 2 weeks ago, the Zambian government withdrew all of these benefits from the former president of Zambia.
How to call it? The one who that preceded the present one, Hichilema.
Exactly.
Why? Because I remember it happened even between Chiluba and former President Kaunda. Chiluba said because Kaunda did not retire from politics, he cannot benefit from the former president's benefits.
Well,
same thing is coming here.
So there should be conditions. And because this is a carte blanche, it's an open gate. For any head of state, it could be even a former tyrant.
Yes.
Who would take care of this. So I think in principle, I support it very strongly. And I would advocate that Parliament should pass such, because Gambia is not unique. I want Gambians to know that it is not just in this country we have such a bill. We have it in hundreds of countries. The Gambia is not unique in this sense.
But the argument has been that it may not be unique, but our conditions are different. Our situations are different. I mean, whereas those countries can afford it, we don't have. Even to meet our bare needs. So why would we give such a luxury to somebody who had served, and when he was there, he was getting $500,000, $6 million a year. He had vehicles, money that he was not spending, because we are paying the president's medical bills. We are president his flights to wherever he wants to go, a holiday package, everything we pay for him. He doesn't need to spend that money, except perhaps what you said, giving it to charity and other people who want him to donate. We are paying everything. He doesn't need anything of this money except to, spend it on whatever private things he does. So after he leaves too, we continue to do 80% of the same salary. And then the drivers, the cooks and everything. And we don't have medical doctors who doesn't get even $10,000 a month. They are every day on a strike. Teachers are walking to work. So that's why they said, I mean, it might be the case in other countries, but our situation is different from theirs, perhaps.
I agree with you that our situation may differ in terms of our economy. And the argument that it's in other countries, so therefore it must be in the Gambia, is not totally tenable. I agree with that as well.
Right. That's my point.
But that is not the only point. What we should consider is the salary that the president receives every month is not sufficient to sustain the president for the rest of his life and his family, together with all of the social expectations that come along with a former president. A former president will still receive requests from the public. He will still be expected to perform, social contributions, so many issues. And therefore, these are matters which must be looked into. Because it encourages a former president to understand, sitting president, to say, well, I don't have to be corrupt. I don't have to put my hand in the public purse. I don't have to influence contracts. Because life after presidency is fully assured for me. So he can focus fully on governance. on delivering the deliverables for the citizens.
Do you think it
But
will
if you are worried about how am I going to live for the next 15, 20, 30 years, how am I going to be able to afford this? How am I able to going to do that? I mean, it can be, it is, you don't need this psychological pressure. Really, you don't need that. So you cannot also compare the president of the republic, the highest of constitutional office of the land, you know, with a secretary, with a driver, you know, with a minister, with a dictator. It's totally different.
Same life.
I am not president. I'm not president.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you that I received nothing less than 30 letters every month, minimum.
Request.
30, all of them request. That is different from daily request. People who just show up at my home. I don't have dependents today. My child's school fees is not paid. You know, I have a medical bill. These are just anonymous people who just show up at my gate. This is different from when I go to occasions where people confront me there again with their problems. I am just a party leader, in fact, of a small party. And then society cannot understand that you also have to make a living. You also have problems. You have your family's problems. You have other problems. There is this assumption that you have it. And you should have it. So that when you don't share what they perceive that you should have, you have a different coloration totally. It is a mindset.
So the state must create the conditions where you can meet your...
It is a mindset. I'm not saying that this should be extended to political leaders like myself. What I'm saying that the expectation is such that the president's salary is not sufficient enough to cover his post-presidential lifestyle.
Good, okay.
So the government has to, it is the principle I'm talking about. How much is accorded to him and his family is a matter of debate. But former president should be taken care of.
You don't want to believe, as critics of the government believe, critics of Mr. Barrow said, probably the president is thinking of leaving office. So this bill might be something he's thinking of so that he's... In other words, I want to ask you whether, does it lend credence to the rumors and speculations that this president may not contest in 2026? Does this bill come to so?
I don't want to believe that.
You don't want to believe it?
Yeah, because this is not a new idea in Gambia. This law is not the first law. President Jammeh...
Yeah, but then it has been...
Let me land.
It has been increased in almost 80% fold.
Let me land. President Jammeh was the first.
So why did he need to do this?
President Jammeh's government was the first government that created such a law.
Yeah, but
under that law, Sarori Jawara was benefiting.
But that's a pittance.
Let me finish. The former president Sarori Jawara was benefiting from ex-president's, welfare bill.
50,000 annually.
So therefore,
$50,000 annually.
he was also entitled to vehicle and driver and medical and all that. So
50,000 annually. This sum is almost 3 million annually.
The sum is subject to debate, like I said. But what I'm saying is that the fact that this bill is coming now. Most Gambians do not know, and many should know that it's not the first time we have such a law in the country. In fact, this law has been in our statute books before. President Jammeh passed the law before, while he was in office. He did that not because he wanted to go at that time. In fact, he wanted to stay for 1 billion years. But he passed a law that will entitle former presidents, including late President Jawara, who was benefiting. And a monthly payment of $50,000 plus vehicle and insurance and international travel. So from that time to date, the economic circumstances obviously change. You cannot say you want to live by 20 years ago, 18 years ago.
Even if to drastically increase it into 80% fall.
Mr. Cham, I am not talking about the figure here. What the president should be paid,
including pensions for the president and his spouse.
I'm not talking about the details. I'm not.
The details. That's where the trouble is. That's why
at the moment
about all the quarrels.
At the moment, I'm not interested so much with the detail because we can work out the details. What I'm concerned right now is that such a law has existed in this country.
Yes, everybody.
And so what Barrow has done is simply to accentuate it, to increase these numbers. Yes, to increase the figures and additional benefits.
Isn't that what led to suspicion that probably he's not going? He wants to be the first to benefit from it.
I don't want to speculate on that because I don't know what President Barrow's future plans are. I can only go by his public pronouncements. And according to President Barrow, in his numerous public pronouncements, he is going to contest 2026 elections.
He didn't say that exactly. His people said so.
I heard President Barrow say that.
Did he say? Yes. I have not heard him recently saying, I'm going to contest in 2026. I heard him say that what we're going to do to the opposition in 2026 will be worse. And I have his lieutenant said, he is our candidate for 2026. but I'm yet to hear it categorically that I am going to run. Despite all the translations that people had, I haven't heard him directly said, I'm going to run 2026 or I'm not going to run. He didn't say that exactly.
Well, for me, it is immaterial whether President Barrow runs or not in 2026 vis-a-vis this bill.
Okay.
It is immaterial.
Comparing to this bill.
Whether President Barrow intends to retire and not contest in 2026, that is a personal decision he has to make. Okay. And it is of no significance.
But you did not suspect that.
It is of no significance. No, I am not thinking along that line. In fact, I have never given it a thought.
Okay.
I have never given it a thought.
Oh, really?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Because politicians, I mean, we say, a week is too long in politics, even a day.
Yes.
So President Barrow could decide to contest. He could decide not to contest.
Yes.
That is a matter that will be determined in the near
I think
future.
Politicians like yourself, shrewd and clever politicians like you should be the first to read between the lines.
Even if I do, I would not disclose. I would not disclose what my position is on that. Let me make you understand.
Right.
Whatever my view is that, or whatever my knowledge, or whatever my impressions about that are, those are matters I will keep to myself for now.
I know. Naturally, okay.
That is correct.
All right.
In fact, that is the correct answer.
Oh,
that is the correct answer.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's move on. I mean, I think at this point we go straight to the region now. The region is also hot about which we had coup d'etats and attempted coup d'etats here and there. The last being Niger. We saw the French influence drastically being reduced in the Sahel, and maybe much closer Senegal. They are going to elections in February, in 3 or 4 months' time, and people believe this election is going to be definitely it may have implications in the region, particularly in the Gambia. How have you been observing the Senegalese political process?
It is natural that the Gambian politicians, such as myself, would exercise a very keen interest in what happens in Senegal. And we have been monitoring quite closely events unfolding in Senegal for some years now, including all of the recent activities taking place in the politics. And I want to commend President Macky Sall for his decision not to contest for the third term. I think it's has set stability and progress in Senegal. It has calmed down
Did you think it
the
was
political tension.
Or he was compelled to do so?
I wouldn't go into that, but I think whatever may be the motivation, the decision not to contest is quite a commendable one. It has restored calm and stability in Senegal and certainly into the region, and also put an end to all the uncertainties with regards to the third term bid. And I wish more heads of state will also, of course, I want to, in passing, also commend President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana, who has also announced that he's not contesting.
Of course,
Ghana. So this is quite commendable, and I hope closer to home a lot of people can be inspired by that as well,
including President Barrow.
I think
President Barrow can be.
I think it's going to be a very good thing if we can set up such a precedent, and I think would be commendable as well. Senegal is a big democracy in Africa, and I am sure Senegal's institutions are strong enough to withstand all of the upheaval that we have experienced over the past couple of months. I think it's going to be quite interesting. But as one of the leading politicians in the country, and having regard to non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries, I would be very circumspect with my comments as to the internal political.
I want to come with a direct question. You think President Sall was fair in banning Pastef and incarcerating Usman Sonko, or you think Sonko was, as they allege he is, a man who is always venomous with his rhetorics, causing trouble here and there? Where is your position on this?
I think my position is not very important here. It is what is the position of the Senegalese people. I think there are various opinions about what President Sonko is going through, as they call him in Senegal, president of a political party. They call you president.
They call him president. Like you should have been called president.
Well, that's the appellation in Senegal. So President Usman Sonko is going through some challenges, and his health has suffered drastically because of his hunger strike, and I think his party has also suffered tremendously as a result of the options, the choices that they made. And I believe that there should be enough tolerance and enough room for discussion and negotiation to allow all sets of opinions on the one tree, under one umbrella, so that all Senegalese citizens who are eligible to contest president's election are allowed to do so without imposing unnecessary restrictions and inhibitions.
Eliminating him is not fair.
So I believe that it is not proper for any political system to be exclusive. I think a political system should be inclusive and should allow all eligible players to participate in the democratic decision-making process. That is what makes democracy a democracy. I think we should not weaponize the law. I think we should not overreach executive authority in order to make it difficult for opponents, people who do not agree with us, to be victimized, so to speak. And I believe that Senegalese justice system should be one that should be fair enough so that every Senegalese will see yourself reflected in the justice system. That is what I would wish for Senegal, because that is what is going to all go well for stability and peace for Senegal, which is a very close neighbor to the Gambia. And I hope that leaders in Senegal would realize the need, that the destiny of Senegal demands that all Senegalese put their hands on the deck, on the table, and that the choice of every Senegalese must be respected.
I mean, you a very high authority in the government, in initial coalition government, and you are au fait with some of the dealings, the Gambia, and the relationship in terms of security, in terms of foreign affairs, international things between the two countries. Do you think with the departure of President Sall, whom have definitely been very friendly to the Gambia, do you think if there is a changes in the case of opposition coming to power, how do you think this will change the dynamics of relations between the Gambia, if it will at all change?
I think it's going to be a significant shift. This is my view.
Yeah, if the opposition, should the opposition win?
Whoever wins, even if, for example, Prime Minister Ba wins, for example, assuming.
Ba is expected to continue the policy of Macky Sall.
Governance is a personal style. There are certain constants that do not change in bilateral relations, but it depends on what the foreign policy priority of the coming president would be. If the Gambia is no longer a priority, perhaps maybe Guinea-Bissau may be the priority, for example. It could be Niger, it depends. A president, my party, would have a different priority. Absolutely. Yeah. So in that sense, governance is a personal style. But I believe, regardless of who comes to Senegal in April, our bilateral relations will remain strong. Because the Gambia and Senegal has no other option except to consolidate our friendship, our bilateral relationship. We have no other option. That's the only way to go. But the intensity of it may change. We have seen a greater intensity with President Macky Sall because he was intricately involved in the change.
Yes.
The 2016 change.
Exactly.
Literally gave me a small office in the presidency. When I was in Dakar with candidate Barrow. And he was involved from every single step in the decision making, in the diplomacy, in all the aspects. So he was there as advisor. He was there as coordinator. He was there with diplomatic support, and he allowed us to be able. He supported us to do so many things that made it possible for ECOMIC to be here. That enabled us to create a concrete consensus among ECOWAS member states to galvanize international support and maintain a consensus on the Gambian question. So he more than any other president in Senegal in the future has been involved in this historic change that the Gambia has had. So there will be no other future president in Senegal who may be closely connected to the Gambia in that sense. Because of his personal involvement.
I see.
There's no politician in Senegal who has reached that level. And his interest is there. Of course, they also have their national interest.
That's what I'm coming to.
Yeah, and we have seen
that will not change much in terms of their national interest.
No. That like I said, there are certain constants in diplomatic intercourse that don't change. So
because I have seen with all the uproars, the Senegalese politicians, I have not seen much who have been very vocal in criticizing his policy towards Gambia. So I want to believe this is so because probably they may disagree with him on so many things, but on the position of Gambia, they agreed with him.
Yes, I think he's done a great job for Senegal in the Gambia.
In the Gambia. So
Yes, he's done a great service to Senegal. That Senegalese governments, previous governments in Senegal, for 50 years or more could not achieve.
Could not achieve.
Yes, so he achieved a lot for Senegal in Gambia.
Even his critics in Dakar agree with that.
Yes, and I think there is a national consensus in Senegal that, the past 5 to 6 years, Macky has done so much to unite this country, his own country, and to quell the low-intensity conflicts, that ravage part of Senegal as well. And his intervention in Gambia greatly contributed towards that. And I think that is a great achievement for him.
Yes. Now, if you look at the PAC, you must have probably met or maybe interact with some of the politicians in the fray there. Apart from his Benna Boko Yakar and APR, there is the Benno Asken we pass Dev and all the others. If somebody asks you, who among them, it's not your business, of course, to predict, but who among them do you think could be most appealing outside President Macky Sall's Benno Boko Yaka?
Again, because of my status and situation, it will be very difficult for me to go into that into that area. But what I can say is, whoever emerges the victor would have been the choice of the Senegalese, and that would be a choice that I would endorse, and I'm sure whatever government exists in the Gambia at the time also would support and work with. But I believe that there are so many seasoned Senegalese and so many patriots in that country. Whoever emerge to be the next president would do well for Senegal.
Now let's continue a little bit to the greater part of the sub-region. I mean, like I told you, we saw in very dramatic fashion how French influence is drastically reduced in the region through coup d'etats and attempted coup d'etats. The latest being Niger, of course, and we had ECOWAS flexing their muscles, even threatening to do a Gambia style in Niger by intervening militarily. That didn't happen up to now, even though the leaders want us to believe that the threat is still there. How did you see that one?
I think it was a mistake.
You mean ECOWAS declaration?
I would condemn the coup in no uncertain time.
Yeah.
I think ECOWAS declaration is natural. We have a protocol on governance, and this protocol is very clear on good governance, peace and stability. Coups are not a good omen for any country, not particularly in our region. And so the unanimous condemnation from all ECOWAS member states was expected. We also condemned it. But I think using force or the threat of force, which is still on the table, I don't think we would see that in Niger. Because the dynamics change when the three Copis nations created an alliance. When Mali and Burkina Faso and Guinea expressed their solidarity and are willing to contribute troops to fight ECOWAS, that would be very terrible. That would be horrific in our region. It will plunge the entire region into prolonged instability, and peace would be elusive. So I think that had changed the equation. So there was the threat of force from ECOWAS and the threat of force from the Copis Club. They thought to retaliate. And I think if you put it on a balance, on equilibrium, you discover that, well, should ECOWAS intervene, Mali is going to make his promise good. Burkina Faso would also send forces without any doubt, and Guinea would send forces. So you have a very catastrophic situation in our region. I think that nobody would wish for that. I think that as a result, ECOWAS also has changed its equation. It's on the table formally, but you will never see, jets flying over Niger at all. That's not going to happen. I think the economic blockade may work. The economic sanction may to some extent, because the intention of the sanction is not to bring down the regime. It is to enrage the public sentiment against the government. Because when basic necessities start going off, electricity goes off, water, food, banking sector, commerce, and everything stands still. Naturally,
the will be under pressure.
The citizens will blame the government, and this may influence another coup.
Another coup d'etat, or perhaps an agreement to transfer power to some.
It will change the attitude in Niamey, without doubt. But how long can we do that? That's the question.
Because these sanctions might have been applied against Guinea, Mali, and others, but we haven't seen much. Even though these places are landlocked, except Guinea, One would have thought that it would have worked with Burkina Faso and Mali.
It has not worked. Well, it has worked briefly with Mali in 2020.
Yeah.
But subsequent to that, it has been loosened even by adjoining states. I don't want to make mention of any country.
Yeah,
but energy, fuel is being transported,
including Gambia. It was
not only smuggled, lawfully transported.
Even from Gambia.
From Gambia, fuel is transported to Mali. We are supplying Mali and Mali.
So we are in breach of ECOWAS.
We are not only in breach. all ECOWAS countries are in breach. So implementation is where you find the devil. Yeah. So it's not going to work. But it worked initially against Mali. Because all ECOWAS countries work together to ensure that the junta is under pressure.
Yeah.
But it has been relaxed. In the case of Niger, countries like Algeria are saying, no, we're not going to allow this. Even if West Africa says no, we are going to support you.
And there, West Africa has no leverage there. Because,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And Mali and Guinea, when you talk about Guinea, you have seen some high-level visits. You've seen presidents visiting Mali, visiting Guinea, with General Doumbouya. The last time the Sierra Leonean president was there.
They said the Guinean man may not be that much radical, maybe anti-French, anti-France as opposed to the others.
I'm not looking at that angle.
That is more conciliatory among all the three countries we mentioned than all the others there. Like he actually had some background, training or even matrimonial ties with France. He seemed to be more conciliatory than all the three, that Burkina and Mali and now Niger.
Well, that shouldn't be a consideration for ECOWAS, because ECOWAS is not a sub-state of France. So whatever may be French influence or French foreign policy, that should not be our consideration. And ECOWAS has been criticized for doing the job of France in this case as well.
Yeah.
And that is why for some of us, we also believe that the good governance protocols should extend to artificial means by which heads of state try to entrench themselves in power, by playing with constitutions and enacting laws that grant excessive authority and power to the president, by rigging elections, repeatedly, using corrupt means and the power of incumbency in order to keep themselves in power. All these are things that ECOWAS should be looking at. And unless we look at the root causes of why these coups take place and just dismiss them, as the effects, not looking at the symptoms, the causes, then we may have many more coups in Africa, in West Africa. Of course, it's moving, mushrooming in Gabon, in Chad. And when you look at Chad, the attitude of France was different. See, I don't want to talk about France.
Yes,
because France, again, I'm trying to toe a very delicate line here. But I think France should just withdraw from Africa. It's about time that France leave Africa and focus on Europe. France should concentrate on France and stop the economic exploitation of French colonies.
Why is it that French colonialism lingers, whereas the British and the Portuguese approach is quite different? Is it because of economic interest?
Look, to tell you the truth, without Africa, France is just another poor European country. Without Africa, France is just another poor European country. It will be impossible for France to compete economically against powers like Germany and Britain without Africa. So it is important that France maintain its apron here. But that umbilical cord, whether France like it or not,
it's been gradually.
We're going to remove it all. And French-speaking countries, particularly the emerging leaders, young generation of leaders in French-speaking countries, are very conscious. And this is why President Ousmane Sonko has gained a lot of respect. In many countries, and by many emerging African leaders who look up to him.
Because of his pronouncements about France.
That is correct.
Isn't that why he's in trouble with President Macky Sall, who seemed to be a puppet of the French?
I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say such a thing.
How they view him. He agrees with everything French and everything France.
Well, I think President Macky Sall is a good leader. I think he's done great things for Senegal in the area of infrastructure and governance, with the economy.
He's very much also receptive to French policies.
Well, that is a matter for the Senegalese to debate, to talk about. But I do believe that ultimately France policy in Africa is disastrous, has always been disastrous, and France should leave Africa.
Okay, let's move on to the Middle East. Israel, of course, you follow a lot of current affairs. Israel and the Gaza war, it happened. I mean, we had the Gambia government, I think in a very rare circumstances, came out in the open to condemn the Israeli position on the matter. Yes. How's your position on that?
I want to condemn this genocide that is taking place in Gaza. This crime against humanity, this war crime. I think it is very brutal, very ruthless, unprecedented, and it's a shame that countries such as the United States, the European Union, are supporting this genocide in Palestine. See, what is happening in Palestine, in Hamas, between what they call Hamas, I call their Palestinians, and Israel, did not start on October 7th.
Yeah.
October 7 is just a continuation.
Yes.
It is just a consequence of 70 years of oppression, of occupation, particularly 15 years of asphyxiation. When there's a total blockade of Gaza, this colonialism, this Holocaust that has been taking place. Yeah. So it is mind-boggling that a country or people that went through a Holocaust could inflict another Holocaust on other people as well. Because what has been happening in Gaza is a Holocaust, particularly right now. Over 4,000 children killed, hospitals bombed out of existence, and civilians killed on a very massive scale. There is blockade of food, water, fuel, and all the basic necessities of life. I think what is happening there is horrible. And the Gambia government condemned it. Yeah. I think I was the first public figure in this country to condemn it. We still stand by that, and we believe that the United States is complicit. The U.S. government, represented by Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. I think he has been a hypocrite.
He's been going all around the place.
I think he's been a hypocrite. He's been going around speaking from both sides of his mouth, saying one thing here and speaking the other. He's been the greatest advocate, the devil, for Israel.
So why is it?
And it is a shame that President Biden continues to insist that there should be no ceasefire. I mean, this is disgrace.
He said there should be room for humanitarian corridor and this, but he's not pressurized Netanyahu to allow a ceasefire to enable more relief, to get into Gaza.
Because the United States and Israel are singing from the same hymn book. They are on the same page. Israel wouldn't do anything without consulting the U.S. The United States is aware of every step.
President Biden himself flew to Tel Aviv at the beginning of the crisis to sympathize with the Israelis,
and he told Israel to go after justice. Go after justice. That is, to quote him directly, that is what he told Netanyahu. Go after justice. So he's giving them the carte blanche. Go and bomb Gaza out of existence, because that's what we did in 9/11. We went after, Tora Bora and bombed everywhere in Afghanistan. And then one day, shamelessly, they just got out of Afghanistan.
But where do you think should be the role of the Arab leaders and Arab nations in this? Because every time you talk, even if you talk to the layman, they will tell you Arab powers such as Egypt, with such a lot of military might, perhaps can solve this problem. Saudi Arabia, which seems to be a leader in most Arab affairs, it seems to be a little bit more even conciliatory to Israel. In fact, before the crisis, they were working on probably normalizing relations. People are disappointed with the stance of the Arab nations, for example, the bigger ones. Why are they, according to people, always listening to America or allow themselves to be divided along the school of thoughts of America and the West in general?
Well, we must understand that it is not the desire of the Arabs to have Israel in their midst. We would take a historical journey that the Arabs fought Israel in two different wars. Egypt at one time, in fact, controlled Gaza. But in the 1967 war, the aftermath of it, Israel took over Gaza again. So the Syrians, the Jordans, the Jordanians, I think the Arabs have always demonstrated their desire to to subjugate Israel to its own dominion. It has never been possible because the United States has been the main backer of Israel,
Yes.
and it is the US that supplies weapons to all these countries as well. But it has rendered Israel the most powerful and the strongest army in the Middle East. In fact, some are saying it is the fourth most effective army in the world, the fourth best army in the world. It is very difficult to defeat that.
Yeah, but then
So militarily is the only way that you could deal with Israel. Now, I think they have at one time, in fact, imposed an oil embargo even against the United States, in favor of Palestine. So the Arabs did what they could, but it is very difficult to fight a superpower, the United States. Without U.S. guarantees, Palestine would have been a state today. So the solution is America.
It's America.
The problem is America. America is the problem and it is the solution.
And aren't the Arab nations or powers not in position to have to flex their muscle in some sort of influence over America by, of course, holding their oil and, stuff that America has been interested in, and said, well, we have to find a Palestinian solution to the Palestinian problem or we are going this way.
It's much more complex than that. See, the U.S. economic hold on the world is very strong. I mean, the Arabs...
But Russia is able to resist it.
The Arabs, they trade in dollars. I mean, if the United States imposes actions against any country,
Russia is resisting.
Well, with great difficulties. The Russian economy is taking a big hit.
Despite the propaganda, you mean?
Russian economy is taking a big hit. And not only that, Russia is considered a superpower, but it is going around different countries looking for weapons and arms. North Korea is going to China, is going to Iran. It's going to different countries looking for weapons to fight the war in Ukraine. I mean, Russia is able to withstand it with its economy and its military might. I don't think any Arab state will be able to do that. It's impossible. If you have the United States and the entire NATO combined, the EU and the West combined, fighting Russia, they've been able to do it now, but it's very difficult. So it has brought Russia to its knees in some sense, because you now find Russia going down to China, humbled, looking for support and cooperation from China. At the same time, it's going down to North Korea, looking for several millions of rounds of ammunition. So, with all its power, and Russia, it's probably it has the country with the highest deposit of gas, petroleum and all that.
Yeah.
So even there, the Europeans have decided to cut off that supply.
Right. So you mean in the long run, Russia will succumb to the sanctions imposed by America and allies?
What makes American sanctions crippling are the secondary sanctions. When America sanctions a country,
or no other country can do business.
When it sanctions a country, then it says any other country that does business with that country would also be sanctioned by the United States. So you have to make a choice. Either you deal with the States or you deal with that country. In the long run, you deal with America. And that is the secondary sanction. That is what is happening to Cuba for all these decades. Iran as well.
Yeah.
And it sanctions companies, private individuals. It imposes all kinds of restrictions. So this is very, very difficult. It's very difficult, including, banking sanctions. You will not trade in US dollars. It's absolutely difficult.
Yeah.
So
what do you do? What do you make of these rhetorics we hear that we have to de-dollarize? Even states like Kenya talking about de-dollarize it. So if you are thinking of these powers not being able to tame America, what do you make of President William Ruto and his new sense of I don't know, how would I call it, Pan-Africanism or something like that?
You see, I have great sympathies for President Ruto. In fact, I share a lot of his ideas.
Oh, really? But sometimes
it's Pan-Africanism.
Yes, some intellect, some over-zealous intellectual.
Well, I understand that he's over-ambitious. Although we part when it comes to the Palestinian thing. He is in favor of Israel. He has supported Israel against Palestine.
That is the greatest abomination.
Well, that is clear. I'm very disappointed by that. But of course, we cannot agree on everything. There are areas of divergence. So I agree that we might differ. We might not agree on the Israeli-Palestinian issue, but there are so many other issues where we can work on together. For mutual prosperity of Africa. Now, I believe in order to shift away from the dollar, it's not just Ruto who's saying that.
In fact, BRICS are saying it, but the BRICS bloc now.
It is now an international issue. Many countries are looking for different ways to get away from the dollar. And I think over a period of time, perhaps in the next 2 decades, we'll see something very drastic towards that. Some are thinking of the Chinese. Or some are thinking in terms of even the Russian ruble. For example, Russia has indicated all European countries that use its gas must pay in ruble.
Yeah, that's right.
And is conditioned then to pay in ruble. And countries like
China insists.
Sweden and others, and they had to pay in ruble. They did pay in ruble. This is to ameliorate its its foreign exchange shortage difficulties. So it is possible when there is sufficient international mobilization and political will to move away from the dollar. Even the Gambia should. Not only that, but Africa is also taking steps towards that. We are taking steps forward because we have what is called Pan-African Payment System. We have now PAPSIS under this African Free Continental Trade Agreement. After. So it is expected by 2025 the system will work. So that you can pay, you can pay anywhere in any African currency. You can pay in dollars instead of paying in dollars. Wow. You can pay in the Kenyan shillings.
So in that way, the dollar monopoly, the hegemony, the dollar
will go down. So systems are being created to deviate away from the dollar. So if the platform that Africa has created succeeds by 2025 for all banks in Africa to use it as their central platform, exchange system, then we don't have much problems with dollars, particularly intra-Africa trade. And gradually, so we have another system must be evolved that will determine how we trade with the rest of the world. So it is moving. You have the euro, the Europeans obviously, even though euro has not substantially diminished the dollar
20 years of the euro now.
Has not substantially diminished dollar dominance. Yes, but we are on the way. We are on the way. And I believe we should stay away from the dollar too.
Good. We still stay with Gaza finally. What do you think should be now the stand of countries in the OIC, such as ours? We are now central in the OIC. I know there is a meeting currently in Saudi Arabia on Gaza trying to do. What do you think should be the solution? Netanyahu has refused to allow the ceasefire. Situation on the ground is terrible. People are dying even in hospitals and etc. What do you think should be the solution?
I think the solution should be a two-state solution.
Yeah, it has been talked about.
We've been talking about it for the longest, but I think the world has the best opportunity now to move towards it.
Because since Camp David, we have had the agreements that have been reached and not been implemented.
Yes, but I think the realization to both Americans and Israelis is that October 7 was a game changer. The phantom military superiority of Israel, its impenetrability, has
its vulnerability was exposed.
Yes, was exposed with some crude means, and there is no way that Israel will be able to get rid of Hamas. It's impossible. It's just a political rhetoric. You cannot get rid of Hamas unless you get rid of over 2 million Palestinians. You must kill all of them because it is an idea. Hamas is a resistance movement grounded on the fact that Israel should withdraw totally from Palestine, and Palestine should be an independent sovereign nation.
And every Palestinian subscribes
that is a view that is shared by all Palestinians.
Even those who are born today.
So if you want to get rid of Hamas, you must kill every Palestinian because that is the idea of Hamas. It is not created simply because they want to destroy Israel. Hamas is created because they want an independent autonomous state.
So that's the final solution.
You cannot get rid of it. Exactly. You cannot get rid of Hamas. Yeah. So the best way, I think, that will come to realization is that this two-state solution must now exist. And the United States is the stumbling block. Like I said, it is the US. And we should stop talking about Israel. I think we should now negotiate directly with the United States where it is willing. Because the US is not an honest broker.
I tell you. Yeah, that's true. Mai Ahmad Fatih, a lawyer and a leader of the Gambia Moral Congress, thank you very much for coming on the brunch to share your perspectives on domestic and international affairs. And we hope to have you very, very soon, much sooner than we perhaps think. Thank you for coming.
I'm very glad you have me. You can always get me out of...
I'm the only one. They said I'm the only one who can drag you from...
at any time.
From your base. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Great respect for you. I have great respect for you indeed.
Good. The brunch will be back to look at football because the Gambia is playing 2 matches in the World Cup qualifiers. Both matches will be played in Tanzania. Well, the technical preparations we have seen with the naming of a 23-man squad. But how is the financial and other logistical arrangements? Well, follow us in the next section of this program.
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yona Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yona Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam.
Welcome back to the brunch on Kerfatu Live. As promised, we're talking sports and football in particular, because the Gambia is facing the next 3 months of intense football activity. We are going to the Africa Cup of Nations in just under 70 days' time, but much more imminent to the football administrators is the World Cup qualifiers. 2 legs, actually, one against Burundi and Ivory Coast. It's just 6 days or so time when we will face Burundi in Tanzania, because that's where they choose to play their home match. The Gambia, just like Burundi, don't have a CAF-approved stadium, so Gambia, I guess because they want to save cost, have logically decided that they will host Ivory Coast in the same stadium, in the same city, Tanzania. But whereas technical preparations have started with the naming of a 23-man squad, we now will look at the financial and logistical arrangements. And with me in the studio is the first Vice President of the Gambia Football Federation. He's also responsible for financial matters in the Federation, Bakari Jammeh. Welcome.
Thank you, Lamin. It's a good pleasure to be back on the brunch again.
Good. People want to know how far your preparations, both you and government, because of course government being responsible for matters of finance when it comes to the activity of the senior national team. People want to know now how far the preparations. We know that all of our boys are either Europe, Asia, and Europe, and they will need to gather maybe in Europe, or would they have now to fly from their various positions to Tanzania? How are you going about the preparations?
Thank you, Lamin. Like I said,
we are honored to be back again, even though the invitation was very short, but it's very pertinent. We come here to talk on this show, which is quite followed both in country and abroad by Gambians and friends of the Gambia alike. Yes, as you rightly said, it's going to be some very busy times for us at Football House, and as a country we have these 2-leg World Cup qualifiers, and we now get into the next year of preparing for our second appearance in the AFCON Côte d'Ivoire 2023 to be played between January and February in Côte d'Ivoire. And as you know, that our national team will be based in Yamoussoukro, the bad city of late Ofebwanyi. For the World Cup qualifiers, we will open our campaign against Burundi. Burundi is home, and this match is scheduled to be played in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, in East Africa on the 16th of this month.
Today is the 11th.
Today is 11th, so practically five days, and we will host Côte d'Ivoire also in the same city, at the same stadium on the 28th. I'm sure we'll get into that.
Difference.
Yes.
So sensible, logically, you think that it wouldn't make any sense to fly from Tanzania and having to choose any other place on the continent, both for logistical and financial reasons. You decided as GFF to host your home leg in Tanzania.
In the introduction, you did say that the Gambia and Burundi both do not have CAF-approved stadiums. That's why we are playing outside our countries. It works this way. First, the host team had the advantage to choose their stadium. So it is actually Burundi who has the advantage of choosing where to play and also what date they had to play. And the FIFA window starts from the 13th to the 21st of this month. So Burundi chose on the 16th, and they choose to play in Tanzania. So we have to go to Tanzania. Since we do not have a CAF-approved stadium, traditionally we tend to look at Morocco or Senegal where possible. We've not been very lucky in Senegal since after our match against South Sudan in chess. So we go to Morocco. So playing on the 16th and having your return game practically 3 days after, because the 20th you can't count that in, it is very logistically difficult to come back, settle down, train and prepare. So it's two reasons why we decided to choose Tanzania. One is for logistic reasons, because as you know, as a small member association, as a small country, we are not as endowed with other countries that can have charter flights all the time. So it means you have to hop on commercial flights, and there is no direct flight between Tanzania and Morocco, or maybe to Senegal, or even if we had to come here. So because of that, and also it's going to be even more expensive, that you're going to have 3-leg travels instead of two-leg travel. So due to these reasons, we had explained this to the government, of course, through the Ministry of Youth and Sport, and together we agreed it's more prudent this time around to play in Tanzania, because after the game we have 2 other days to prepare against Côte d'Ivoire, which is a very different opponent from Burundi. Not looking low on Burundi, but certainly you know that Côte d'Ivoire is a powerhouse in football in Africa, and much highly ranked than the Gambia at this stage. Yes. To answer your question, yes, technical preparations are ongoing. We have all seen yesterday the coach has unveiled his squad, a very good squad, a strong squad, and by his judgment the best to do the job at this moment in time. We congratulate him for that, and we also congratulate all the players that make the selections, and we have every reason that again they will go and do the country proud. In terms of logistics, the camp plans are out. On Sunday, the Gambian contingent, that means the local staff and the administrative staff, will leave Banjul Sunday night, early Monday morning, to arrive on Monday evening in Dar es Salaam. The local administrative staff will have to be on there, which is the competition manager, the general secretary, and the protocol guy, because we also have to host Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire in Tanzania. So they will, and also other team, the coach and other players will start arriving. I think most of them will be arriving on Monday, and then they have.
Are they going to fly from their station, or you usually camp them in Brussels or somewhere?
No, for this game now, there's no time. Camping. Everybody is leaving your own respective destinations, and they will all arrive in Dar es Salaam by flight, of course, by commercial flight,
by
individually.
By which date?
Monday into early morning.
You have an advance party already in Dar es Salaam. You should have one by now there.
Why should we?
Yeah, because if the players have fun, some of them might not even have never been there.
No, excuse me. That's why I said our team that is leaving will be on the ground before anybody else's.
They will be on the ground. They will barely know. They will barely know the city when the players will arrive.
I mean, the reality now is that and us in the GFF has a lot of cooperation with other member associations, and also we know how to organize games as well. Today, all logistics arrangements have been adequately put in place. We stay in 5-star hotels, and we have, together with our sister organization, the Tanzanian Football Association, we are very grateful for them, because they are also providing a lot of assistance. They've helped us get the stadium secured at minimal cost, and then we have all hotel arrangements. So our people will be on the ground and will receive the delegation, and all the technical preparations will be done by the coach, and he is quite aware of actually what is happening. And this is the budget that we have submitted to the financiers of national team, not the senior national team. In reality, it is the government that should. That doesn't happen in reality, but the budget for this engagement was sent to the.
How much is this budget? These two World Cup qualifiers.
Thank you very much for asking me this question. A budget is an indication of how much it's going to cost to organize a football game, which is not cheap. We have to fly our entire delegation to Dar es Salaam. Flight cost is one key element. The other costs are, first, if you go, you have to camp in a 5-star hotel. You also have to pay for accommodation and feeding for the entire delegation. We also are responsible for our local logistics in terms of hiring of buses for the team, hiring of vans and other vehicles. We also have to pay certainly for the use of the stadium and other services like security for the match that we are going to host against Cote d'Ivoire. And another important element, which is the camping allowance, because our team is a professional team, and we have agreed, of course, with the government and the team, an allowance structure for players and officials. That's, I mean, the officials or the technical team as well. And there is also a win and a match draw bonus system. So we have playing 2 matches, so there is a provision for two wins. So if you add that all up, in addition to the last, because normally for some time due to financial constraint, we have the last match that we played and qualified us, which was a draw against Congo. You have a draw bonus added and all. So this is.
You have areas there.
Yes, certainly. and that's about $3 million.
You owe the boys $3 million.
The team.
The team. The team. Yeah. Officials and players.
Let's call our team. I mean, the head coach.
You owe the team $3 million in bonus.
Yes.
So you need to take care of
the country. It does.
There's a possibility of.
Certainly, it will be paid this time round. This is the budget that was submitted.
So how much is the total when you put all this together now?
$24 million.
And you've presented this to government.
Yes, it's been presented to the government and it's been
discussed. And you need this budget
now
now because you have 5 days to go. So.
Yes.
Has anything been coming from
certainly. The government? Like what have always been happening, the government do contribute to this budget, and the government sent to the GFF yesterday. I have been informed by the finance team that today they've got $10 million towards
10 million.
$10 million.
That's already in your hand.
That's already in our hands. So there
10 million out of 24 million.
Exactly. So
how are you going to go about when you have 24 million? All the expenditures you have outlined are to come from the 24. You have now 10. How do you make up the 14 shortfall?
I mean, how we have been making up of these shortfalls over the past years
should be the question.
Should also be.
How do you manage?
Be the
when
question.
the government always bring you something that is short of your plan, how do you go about it?
We have been managing as a federation in many ways. You see, our primary responsibility is to organize football. We are the organization responsible for football management in the Gambia, and this is why the GFF encounter a number of problems and shortfalls in the execution of our core mandate, because we've been using FIFA funds, we've been taking loans from the bank to pay for these deficits. It's got up to the point that it has really impacted on even football development in the country. Let's first talk about what we have done in this particular instance, because we anticipated something like this. This is not a blame game, but it's a reality.
It's now becoming a tradition. You always get money that is far short of the required budget.
Exactly. This is the reality. However, we are not also we are cognizant of the difficulties and the situation that we are in. As a country, as a people, all sectors have real funding problems, and the government are trying, but it's not enough. And that's why I felt today, I think we need to also state the facts. For this game, we anticipate that this is going to happen because it's been happening. We, through our president, Lamin Kaba Bajo, and we have sought support outside from our bilateral partner, the Saudi Football Association, who we have a technical cooperation arrangement with, and then we hope before the end of the day we will get some support, particularly in the terms of the air ticketing from the Saudis, and also we're looking for other means from them to be able to support. I am not sure whether it's actually be enough, and then what happens if it's not enough, the GFF has to actually find other means and stop other programs to fund the senior national team. It opens the question why the senior national team. Perhaps during the course of our discussion we will be able to reach that, because it's actually very important that a country have a participating nationality men and women, because that's where your FIFA ranking actually depends. That's where you are judged we are judged as a federation. That's why the country is also judged, and that leads to the development of football in this country. And a phenomenon that's been happening here is that many other countries are looking at Gambian talents now And we all see day in, day out, both men and women players signing for clubs in the sub-region, in Europe, in America, in the Middle East, and other places. It's only happening because our football is developing, and thanks also to the national team that has been flying the flag very, very high.
Now, when you talk about these monies, the layman in the street will say, okay, you said FIFA monies. You are using FIFA monies on national team matters when it should be the government that should take care of national teams. Then the people keep wondering, say, okay, what do you do with the FIFA money? Yeah, I mean, people are...
Let's put it in context.
Yeah.
The Gambia Football Federation is a member of FIFA. FIFA, the world governing body of football, supports its members in two ways. One, they give you now 2.5 million. This is a new circle.
2.5
million US dollars
for 4 years.
No, per annum.
Per annum
for your operational cost.
That is
your operational cost. It means your cost to organize your football, your leagues. In our case, our first division leagues, male and female, our second division, male and female, our third division through our regional. To develop football, that is also all the technical programs that we execute through our technical coaches and referees. Not only capacity building, but development. This is the money that they use for us to ensure that we have governance. You have the executive committee that gives the strategic direction, and also you have your administrative staff, which is the general secretary and all his staff, to organize both the competitions and all the technical development. That's where you pay all your salaries. Okay, it's also through that, we also support our members, which is the clubs and associations. Since 2014, no team has paid registration fee, and we support them to prepare themselves for their leagues and also to transport them to the league.
So all these annually come from this $2.5 million dollars.
Exactly, and
that's about $100 million a year.
No,
$100 million a year.
Yes, about a year if you divide that. And then there is also a key cost for us as a federation here. Again, we have hired a senior national team coach through the government and all the other national team coaches. And you know, our senior national team coach is a professional. And then you have to pay a professional, even though I am sure he's one of the least paid coaches now that he is not only qualified, but he's one of the 10 best coaches in Africa.
He's been nominated
two times.
Twice,
certainly one of the 10 if he is not nominated, and that's a significant cost as well.
So
since he was hired, we pay the coach.
You pay the coach at the federation.
We pay the coach.
And it should have been the government.
Yes, of course. Not only him, but all the other coaches should have been paid by the government, and we pay that. And this is where it's coming from, the FIFA fund. That's why sometimes you wonder why. So when people say they're receiving millions from FIFA, where does it go?
So you have $100 million a year from FIFA, and you need to develop all aspects of football there, organize your competitions here, and of course pay your technical staff from
last year alone, of that 100 million, 30% of it goes, which is over $30 million in organizing the league. The league prizes alone is close to $7 million because we don't have sponsors. That's the reality in the Gambia. We seek out for, with the exception of Baluo, which is only
first division,
which is only 1 million, and which was later distributed to the clubs. From preparing your grounds, field markings, paying for the referees, paying for other match officials like general coordinators, match commissioners, etc. They and also paying also for the transportation of teams alone cost over $30 million.
So the league alone took 30 million.
Over $30 million because we do not have, in other countries, they don't use their FIFA monies for that.
Yeah.
Because there is a sponsor that will agree and advertise on.
Why do you think it's difficult to get sponsorship?
It's the macroeconomic situation
of the country.
No sector exists outside your country conditions.
Yes.
Today is actually very difficult because maybe I am a businessman, I work in the corporate world, but we know that as a country, very few companies now do advertise. It's certain. The biggest adverts are Africell, QCell in telecom because they use their own media to do advertisement.
Sure.
But point to me any major bank that is doing any advertisement now. It is not that we haven't tried. We have a marketing committee here, we have a marketing department, and we are knocking on doors daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. But also, I understand as a business person, advertisement sponsorship is an investment.
Yeah.
There must be something in
that you get in
our tax system is not such a way that if people use their dollars in development, they cannot recoup it back either in taxes or maybe it doesn't translate enough into business for them. So this is the reality. So but us, we have to go on because you have to make your product better. For the first time last year, we had an unsolicited sponsorship from Baluo. This year as well, we have a few other unsolicited because our football is developing.
I see.
If you look on the other side as well, we have to participate, we have to do our football because eventually it is changing the lives and livelihood a lot of young Gambians. I went as the head of delegation with our under-20 team to both the African Cup of Nations in Egypt and also in Argentina. With 21 young men in Argentina and 23 in Egypt. Today, with the exception, I think about 4 or 5, all of those have signed professional contracts abroad, bringing a lot of dollars and euros back into this country. And we have all seen when the coach called for his squad today, we all celebrate Mamadou Bayo
for the first time.
Bayo's inclusion into the game because we decided to use the FIFA money to go to the WAFU competition, to the AFCON competitions, and the World Cup, which cost us, again, from this 100 million, nearly 30 million, and the government has not contributed to the WAFU or to the African Cup of Nations. But when we went to the World Cup, there was a contribution of about 50% of the budget. From zero. So it's if you look at the trajectory, we are in a very difficult situation, which is the reality, not being critical. But hopefully, if we continue like this, we hold the ship, we'll go to the situation that we'll have more sponsors and adverts in the future. But today is actually very difficult, and that's where the FIFA monies are going to.
I see, because this is important. Now, people will say you get millions from FIFA every year. $100 million. What do you do with that? But you've been able to explain.
Yes, certainly. Even that for football is small money, and then the objective of the FIFA operational support is by no means to cover the entire running cost
of national team
of a football federation. And they even don't anticipate. We find it actually very difficult for FIFA people to buy the fact that we are spending money on our national team. When it's even more difficult this year. Our president, for the last few days, has been engaging a number of people, both in at the regional level and also at the level of Zurich, to try to convince that we have to use our development funds, which is 2 million on a 4-year cycle,
which is about $10 million.
Which, as we speak, it's going to be December. We haven't been able to access $1 from that development fund yet, because it's going through a lot of administrative processes.
I see.
And then we want to even use some of those things for our national team. Don't forget that we have 10 games in qualification.
In the World Cup.
In the World Cup. If you have a budget
that
you present and you only receive 50%.
Yeah,
where are you going to get the 50%? You keep digging.
Two matches alone, you need 24. 24 times 10, you talk about $200 million.
Certainly, but the benefit to the country is more than $240 million.
Yeah.
So this we are even trying to. Our president is trying to convince FIFA, together with all of us in the executive committee, to use part of the development fund to fund our national team activities because of the current situation that we are in.
Good. So, but in this one, so you because the budget is 24, you have $14 million is shut off. I mean, but thank God you have been able to negotiate with your bilateral partners, and you are short of getting air tickets, assistance on air tickets, and
that is confirmed as of today.
That's confirmed.
Yes.
The Saudis will come. The Saudi Federation will come and help you in that.
Yes,
matter.
even though I can tell you that now, even though the Football Federation has not formally actually announced it, but this is the reality on the ground, and it's going to be public knowledge.
Have the tickets been purchased already?
Yes. I have been reliably informed by the General Secretary yesterday in the evening that the team manager, who also acts as our procurement manager, has confirmed to him that he had made arrangements with a travel agency to do. This is the efforts that we all do, both at the level of the executive committee and the level of the staff. They work also very hard to ensure that we participate in this competition.
So
we have all seen Eritrea yesterday. 6 days before going to Morocco, they've actually withdrawn.
They withdrew.
They couldn't have money to actually go, and they are not the only country that do it. But we as a federation
are determined to
go ahead, because we know that at the end of the day the benefit to the country outweighs, and then we have a good shot.
And again, we have grown in reputation and in achievement that we can
afford. Today we are nominated as one of the 10 best teams in
the continent.
In the continent, and hopefully we are not going to
so when
you
you get these monies that are short of your budget, what does the government tell you? Oh, sorry, we have a lot of other things to do. Or they just tell you the economic situation of the country is that we can't afford to get you only 24 million. I mean, what do they explain? Normally just come, DFF, this is what we can do.
Certainly we do have discussions. I headed the delegation to go and talk to the ministry. We met with the Deputy Permanent Secretary Technical, Hon.Mai, and the Deputy Permanent Secretary Finance and Admin, Lamin Kamara, because the Permanent Secretary and the Minister are not in the country. Seriously worried because at the time President Bajo has not returned back from his trip from Saudi Arabia, that we need really full funding this time round, because there is no other alternative. But we were told was that these national team activities and other national teams, other sports, are funded from the sports levy.
Yes.
And that was the only amount of money, 10 million, available
from the sports levy.
Even though we suggested to them for them to go to the to look for other alternative, but that hasn't materialized until now, as far as I do know. But the activity has to go on, and this is what we do at the Football Federation.
Good. All right, let's talk about the Cup of Nations coming in January. I mean, we understand there has been a national coordination committee. This time much smaller, in which the GFF is represented. You are the co-chairperson. It's been said that you are looking for $400 million. And when news about this comes, some people sarcastically said that money is too much. And the impression we got from what you have outlined, that it may even be short of what is required.
Thank you very much again. Yes, you're right. The Gambia Football Federation and the Ministry of Youth and Sport, of course, representing government, has set up a committee not only to raise funds, but also to make all the necessary logistics arrangement for the successful participation of the Gambia in AFCON 2023 in Cote d'Ivoire. With the Permanent Secretary, we are co-chairing a smaller group, and there are other subcommittees that have been set up, which is a little bit expanded, like the fund raising and publicity subcommittee and a logistic committee and a dedicated finance separate committee headed by the Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Finance, Madam Julde Sise.
Yeah.
The Logistics Committee is headed by Papa Yusuf Anjai of Unique Group, our honorary consulate to the Ivorian honorary consulate in the Gambia. Yes, and the Fundraising and Publicity Committee, which is also jointly chaired by myself and the Permanent Secretary. I think you are the culprit because it's your newspaper.
Well, I've got information that you are looking for 400 million.
It's your newspaper. I don't know where you got that
but
information.
But that's correct, isn't it? You need 400 million.
As far as I know, I do not know how much we are looking for. But that information is not correct.
It's correct. That is 400 million. I can tell you where I got it from.
Well,
I wouldn't do that.
I am not asking you, but I'm going to explain to you the process of what is going on.
But you certainly need an amount like that.
As a country, we have some experience, good or bad, for participation in AFCON in terms of logistics and financing. We went to AFCON 2021 in Cameroon, and we had experiences.
Yes.
I can tell you, after coming back from AFCON, the Football Federation had to take over nearly 40 million outstanding payment of allowances and bonuses to our national team.
Even after the 90 million that the government...
Exactly. Simply because the calculation was projected that we will be... that 90 million was to cover for the first round.
The first round.
So we went to...
the second round and the quarterfinals.
And we went to the second round and the quarterfinals. And the bonus structure is that you have a camping allowance for the tournament.
Yeah.
You have also win bonuses for per match, and also you have qualification bonuses for the next stage.
For the next one. So, and the boys achieved both.
And the boys achieved
they
all
won
three.
And qualified.
Yes, they had camping allowance. They won matches and they qualified to various rounds.
Yes, as second round and the quarterfinals
as well. So that's a learning. So this year the planning process is going to go up to the final. So again,
I see.
Again,
the point is that your planning is up to the final.
Again, during the planning for 2021, it was anticipated that everything will be funded within the country. This year, in our preliminary meeting as the National Coordinating Committee, and also at the subcommittees level, we are looking at a number of levels. I can authoritatively tell you that first, as a football federation, again, we are one step ahead because of our technical assistance with the Saudi, and that was the reason why our president sought audience with his counterpart president in Saudi Football Federation, was to go and try to get them assist us to have our training camp in Saudi and have a test game. The initial planning was to have a test game in Qatar, and to be partly or greatly funded by the Saudis, and we have already seeked that request to them, and our president went to follow that up, and I can tell you and all you listening to us that he was successful. I mean, you know, President Bajo was an ambassador in Saudi and many Arab countries, and like me, as a former chairman of a tourism board, we are all very good bombsters.
So he was able to bomb the Saudi.
Yes, and he's been very successful. We are very grateful to the Saudi Football Association, and we are also very grateful to him because all his travels is about getting linkages with not only our colleagues in the footballing world, but other places, and it has been showing dividend. And
so what has he achieved this time?
This time around, the Saudis will pay for the air tickets of our team to go and come there, and also for the accommodation.
Okay.
So we will have to look for the money for the camping allowances.
So the camping allowances you need.
Again, we do know that the Ministry of Youth and Sport and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs have actually put in the AFCON 2023 as one of the agendas in the bilateral discussions with the President and his delegation that are currently in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to be able to get some assistance in that area. And then certainly we have had a lot of discussions with corporate bodies in the Gambia. Banks, oil marketing companies, GSM, financial services, who also want to partner. So our partnership is not only going to be about the AFCON, it's going to also be a partnership with football and partnership with our World Cup qualifiers to be able to maximize the benefit both for football and also the potential partners. There are also other events planned. Of course, certainly the committee will come out and talk to them about that. The logistics side are now working out to see how much all this thing is going to cost. All the logistics that we need, and the finance committee will now put the numbers on, and then we will arrive the exact number. That's why I am surprised that 400 million. I've seen
an estimate of 400 million.
Certainly,
and I'm sure, and I can show you that is. My information is that it can even be more than that.
Okay, all right. Perhaps I am not aware of that.
So we might end up saying 600 million is what is needed.
Yes, if 600 million is what is actually needed.
The way it's going, the way my information.
Yes, if 600 million is actually what is needed, that's what is needed. But as far as I know, I don't know the exact amount for the time being.
Good. Yes. Bakari, we have to thank you very much for coming into the studio to update us on the preparations for these two matches coming, the World Cup qualifiers, Burundi and Ivory Coast, both of which of course will be played in Tanzania. And we also hope and wish your committee, the NCC, good luck in your preparations for the Africa Cup of Nations. So this will be about the brunch this week. I'm Hon.Mai, wishing you all have a great weekend.
Thank you.